All right. It is 12:30, 7:30 in Romania. I ask that you all return to your computers, turn on your videos, and so on and so forth. All right, and as people are coming back, I would just like to acknowledge a couple of very important figures in this movement, in this project, that I haven't had the chance to acknowledge yet. And first I'd like to acknowledge Professor Eduard Mindirigiu of Colegiul Național Mircea from Constanța. He's one of the founding professors in this movement, has been with us, the first professor that has been with us for a very long time. And I want to thank him so much for all of his support to date and his continued support for the future. I'd also like to thank Professor Florin Alin Oros of Liceul Ortodox in Oradea. He's also a founding professor and has been very supportive of us through the 2020 Nationals and beyond. I'd like to thank Professor Lazar, who's coming from Brukenthal, one of the oldest, or I think the oldest school in Romania, which is really cool. I'd also like to thank Professor Bilaya of Gheorghe Lazar Sibiu for all of her support and the school support. I'd like to thank Professor Mihaela Țurcănașu of Colegiul Național Iași for all of their support and her support. I'd like to thank Professor Grigore of Ialomița, again, another one of the founding professors who has been with us for a very long time. And I'd like to thank Profesoara Raftu of Colegiul Național Eminescu in Constanța for all of her support. And of course, last but in no way least, I'd like to thank Professor Carmen Secătureanu for all of her incredible support of us. She was the executive director at the 2020 Nationals. She's been with us for an extremely long time. And on the student level or the non-professor level, I hope these people are still here. I'd like to thank Ștefan Mindirigiu, if you're here, for all of his support of this project from the very beginning. In fact, he even was one of the organizers of the 2020 Black Sea tournament, which is really cool. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Diana Savopol. She's one of the finalists at the 2020 Nationals, and of Alexandra Pop and Andreea Dula, of Alexandra Pop, who is one of the finalists at the 2020 Black Sea tournament. And I would like to also mention Irina Georgescu, who is from Craiova, and she's pioneering the debate program there. And it's really an incredible responsibility that she took on herself to organize debate in this whole city as a 9th and as a 10th grader.
Thanks.
All right. So yeah, I see a lot of people are starting to come back, which is really great. I think we'll give maybe one more minute. I see. Okay. Thank you, Professor Pop. Yeah, I think we're going to give one more minute for people to come back, but the people who are here, please stay for a minute. And while we do that, I'm going to first do an attendance call to see if everyone's here. So Alexandra Pop of Târgu Mureș, are you here?
Yes.
Perfect. Diana Gaburak of Târgu Mureș, are you here?
Yes, I'm here and ready to debate.
Perfect. And on the Intech side, Daphne, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. And one moment, please. Layla, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Perfect. And Daphne, Layla, Diana, Alexandra, I ask that you all turn on your cameras. I know it's yeah, I ask that you turn on your cameras. I know like it's a bit difficult, but when you're debating, people want to see your faces. Yeah, Adiel, you're fine. I'm asking the competitors. So when you go to compete at a debate tournament, you should have your cameras on so that the judge can see your face and be convinced by the ardor encountered therein. And also, I mean, this is the first like transatlantic public forum debate ever. So I think you want your faces associated with that. Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
One moment, please. I'm going to announce this now. So we have our demonstrative match, and on the pro, speaking first is a team from Intech Academy, New York City. On the con, speaking second is a team from Alexandru Papiu Ilarian National College, Târgu Mureș. The topic is resolved. Social media corporations should be legally responsible for incitements to violence, fake news, and hate speech posted on their social platforms. Let us hear them debate. And so I would like to note that while we have had topics about social media in the past, this is a new topic. This is not about whether social media is beneficial or not. This is about the regulation of social media. It's a totally different ballgame. And it's also the topic that will be occurring for the Transylvania Castles of Mind tournament. All right, and we're almost ready to debate, but it's super important that I acknowledge everybody who has been giving us so much support. So I'd like to acknowledge 3 more people, which is first, Professor Vurtejanu for all of her incredible support during the 2020 Nationals and onwards. I'd also like to thank Professor Tâmplărescu for all of the incredible support that has been provided, and Professor Toma for all of her support. All right, thank you. And, oh, do you want to speak?
No, I'm speechless.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, look, I'm getting text. Thank you, Teddy. You're very welcome. Or really, I should be thanking you for all of your support. Okay. Let's get ready. The pro team. Who is first speaker for the pro team?
Me.
Daphne. All right. So this, if you want to take notes, this is the time to be taking notes on this debate round, because a lot of the times, and I'm going to be judging this, and I'm going to be writing down notes of what's happening so that I can make my ultimate decision. Let me actually get paper to do so. And the reason why I'm taking notes is so that I can minimize the chances I get overloaded and maximize the chances of making a good decision. I will also be giving feedback at the end. With all of this said, Daphne, first speaker, pro, whenever you're ready, you may begin your case. You have 4 minutes.
Okay, my time will begin now. Good morning, judge and opponents. My name is Daphne. My partner, Layla, and I affirm the resolved. Social media corporations and users should be legally responsible for incitements to violence, fake news, and hate speech posted on social media platforms. Judge, our framework for this round is that if we were able to show you the negative effects of incitements to violence, fake news, and hate speech, and then show you why making social media corporations and users legally responsible for their actions would be beneficial, we win. Our first contention is the stuff posted on social media has an influence on people's lives. Whether it's conspiracy theories, fake news, or a rude comment, whoever might end up seeing what is posted on social media can be heavily influenced in negative ways. Fake news and incitements to violence. One of the most recent examples would be the Capitol riots in Washington, D.C. All the rioters put their lives at risk, and the ones that died cannot be brought back. People crushed an officer inside a door, giving the man a heart attack, all because of a couple tweets posted on social media. Twitter did ban Trump from tweeting, but that was after the damage was done. And when President Trump sarcastically said to inject disinfectants to help with COVID, the city's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene said that the Poison Control Center recorded 30 cases. These included 9 specifically about exposure to Lysol, 10 cases specifically about bleach, and 11 about exposures to other household cleaners. That compared to only 13 cases in the same time frame 1 year ago. Subpoint B, hate speech. Hate speech is any kind of communication in speech, writing, or behavior that attacks with reference to a person or a group on the basis of who they are. In other words, based on their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor. I bring this up so that I can clarify the fact that hate speech is indeed a form of cyberbullying. According to hackinghate.eu, victims of online hate speech may show low self-esteem, sleeping disorders, increased anxiety, and feelings of fear and insecurity. One respondent from the UK explained that victims felt left out, like they've got no friends. These types of things can make a teenager feel depressed and possibly consider doing irreversible things. Online hate speech has an even wider societal cost. It may lead to normalization of discrimination, intolerance, and hateful attitudes and behaviors. When asked about the effects on society, young people often said that it would threaten the freedom of expression. A society that does not express opinions and ideas will not progress. Our second contention is it would create an incentive to make sure that these actions don't happen. If someone knows that they would face legal consequences for any incitements to violence, hate speech, or fake news, then they are more likely to make sure that it doesn't happen on their social media platforms. These 3 things are not being controlled or regulated on social media at the moment. At the same time, platforms have been quite successful at detecting and taking down any nudity, sexual content, ISIS recruiting pitches, and copyright violations. Effective policing is possible if the incentives are there. That is according to CNBC.com. This is showing us that serious actions aren't taken until legal implications are there as well. Social media corporations would be left with no choice but to create new regulations and restrictions to make sure that it won't happen. This would ensure the companies and users that they would not get into trouble for posting these things, ensure the users that they would not receive hate speech, and ensure the public that they wouldn't be receiving fake news or incitements to violence. It not only creates a safer environment online, but also a safer mindset knowing that you are not receiving incorrect information or hate speech. For those reasons, Judge, I urge you a pro ballot.
All right, cool. So now I would like to hear the first speaker from the con team.
Yes, it's me. I should start in 3, 2, 1, go. Social media means connecting and freedom of expression. It's the fundamental right for people to speak without distress regarding the attribution, censorship, and government interference. We do not consider that either social media corporations or users should be legally responsible for their posts. As long as our government respects people's right to express themselves, and these platforms live up to their responsibilities to support expression and prevent harm, there is no need to implement a law for triggering content posted on social media. So I'm going to talk about corporations and then the free will of the people. So according to Section 2013 of the Communications Decency Act, social media corporations should not be treated like they provide dangerous content and on their platforms. Therefore, why should they be legally responsible for something they didn't actually do? When a user signs up, they agree with the terms and conditions of use, in which is specified what kind of content is allowed on their platform. On top of that, the corporations invest and develop technologies for their use, such as safety, and try to make the platforms a realm of free expression, not oppression. For example, Mark Zuckerberg made a statement and said that AI systems identify 99% of the terrorist content and take it down before anyone even sees it. This is a massive investment. We now have over 35,000 people working on security. Also, Facebook took action against 26.9 million pieces of hate speech in the first quarter, and Instagram 6.6 million pieces. This company deleted or banned users who posted 6.3 pieces of bullying and harassment content. At the end of the day, social media platforms are only algorithms that are meant to reflect our beliefs and make you interact with content that you prefer. By definition, an instigator is the person that lures the accused into a crime that he otherwise had no intention to commit. After these facts have been told, what is the conclusion? Are innocent and educated people manipulated to be violent and to believe in fake news? I don't think so. People interact with fake news and detrimental perspective, but they mostly come across true and relevant information in social media. And in this point, the free will is the one that makes the decision. Research from Reuters Institute also shows that people who got their news online actually have a much more diverse media diet, and people who don't, they're exposed to a broader range of viewpoints, raising a judgmental thinking. They believe people should be able to use social media services to discuss issues they feel strong about, from religion to immigration to foreign policy and even crimes. You should even be able to be critical of groups without dehumanizing them. And this is what social corporations do, put essential and moral restrictions on the freedom of speech and take action against the ones that they consider imminent danger or inadequate. For example, in 1960s, the trial New York Times versus Sullivan decided that you can criticize public figures even if what you're saying is false, as long as you're doing that with no actual malice. Even the hate speeches and incitement to violence are always straightforward to judge at scale. If someone is posting a video of racist attack because they're condemning it or glorifying or encouraging people to copy it. Either way, the solution is not to for this behavior is not to restrict through law their social media affiliates, but to develop our judgmental thinking and let the social media platforms ban and take down posts for the greater good. Thank you.
All right. So now that we have heard their opening arguments, we're going to hear the first crossfire. Before we do that, and I promise for the last time, I want to acknowledge everybody. So just 3 more groups of people to acknowledge. First, I'd like to thank Radu Secaturanu. All of the tech support, all of the judging that he's done for us is really amazing. I'd also like to thank Milan Jovanovic, who's actually right now coming from Serbia, from Belgrade, if I'm correct. So we have more of that international component, and he's a really good judge. And I would like to thank all of the judges that judge public forum debate in Romania and in America, because the judges are what make this event possible. With that said, let me go back to judging to make this possible. So we're going to have the first crossfire, 3 minutes. Daphne and Alexandra can ask each other questions. Daphne gets the first question.
Can I get 30 seconds prep time?
Sure, I'll run the clock. Okay, that's 45 seconds. Do you want more?
No, I'm good.
Cool.
My first question is, before I say my question, over 52% of people using social media have encountered some form of online hate speech about their race. Do you believe that this should continue occurring without anything being done about it?
No, I totally think that hate speeches about racial and all of this should not continue, but restricting the people's will and making a law is not the solution. you will hear hate speeches about your race on the streets, in other examples, not only on social media. So the best thing to do in this situation is not to make a law against these people, but to restrict their hate speeches and ban them, as platforms or actually do, like Facebook and Instagram. I presented you some statistics.
Okay.
So my question is, could you give me some effects of this resolution? I mean, if you support this kind of law, please explain why is it beneficial for the society and how it should be implemented?
Well, with more laws restricting these things from being posted on social media, it would cause the incitements to violence, fake news, and hate speech to decrease. And this would end up leading to less people receiving terrible things. As I said in my first contention, there were a ton of people who ended up just like completely invading the Capitol because of things that our president posted on social media. So if that hadn't happened, then the Capitol riot wouldn't have happened. So that's what I think would be one of the many effects of implementing this type of laws. You said that, as a response to my question, that instead of making a law, we should be creating restrictions. How do you know that these corporations and companies would actually end up creating restrictions, since there's no actual full incentive to do so?
Because when you signed up on a platform, you agree to the use terms and conditions. And as I said, is it increasingly more and more effective, their AI systems, artificial intelligence technologies that make a difference behind the hate speeches and free speeches. When there's actually hate and a lot of detrimental effects of what people post, most of them, almost 99%, are being cut down before anyone sees it, or at least a few people does. And also, let's just remember that we have some buttons on social medias and we can report if something is inappropriate.
All right, that's time. A bit overtime, but I'm a nice judge. Let's go into the rebuttal. Second speaker in the pro team. Whenever you're ready. If you want, you can take prep.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could take 30 seconds prep.
Sure. Just make sure not to run out of prep because you only have 3 minutes. That's 30 seconds. Do you want more?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. 3 minutes?
Rebuttal is 4.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Prep time is 3.
Okay, I'm just putting up a timer right now. Okay. And my timer will begin now. Judge, as my partner has stated in our first contention, that the stuff posted on social media has an influence on people's lives, whether it's conspiracy theories, fake news, or a rude comment. Whoever might end up seeing it posted on social media can be heavily influenced in negative ways, especially if the person who posted such a thing has a huge platform, as the examples of our former president, Donald Trump, had written a tweet on Twitter in which he incited the Capitol riots in Washington, D.C., all the rioters had put their lives on risk, and the ones that died cannot be brought back, as well as people who were victims to the riots. A couple of tweets, and this was all caused because of a couple of tweets on social media, and that people on social media wanted to be loyal to their former president. And yes, even though Twitter did ban Trump from tweeting afterwards, but that was after the damage had already been caused. Victims also in our, victims of online hate speech, as my partner had mentioned, show low self-esteem, sleeping disorders, increased anxiety, and feelings of fear and insecurity. They may feel lonely and isolated. These types of things could make a teenager feel depressed and like they don't belong in the world, and possibly do irreversible things. These types of, these effects on society, young people have said that it can threaten freedom expression. Freedom of expression is abolished if you are targeted by hate speech. You will start not wanting to voice your beliefs. A society that does not express opinions and ideas will not progress. Also, what the pro are trying to implement is that is stronger laws on internet so that people can be safer and more protected online. Former President Donald Trump had a very, very big platform in which he spread misleading information. And when former President Trump sarcastically said to inject disinfectants help with COVID, the city's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene said that in an 18-hour period ending at 3 p.m. Friday, the Poison Control Center reported 30 cases. Also, our opponents agreed with my partner during their crossfire, in which they responded to yes to the question of that my partner mentioned about over 52% of people using social media have encountered some form of online hate speech about their race on social media. And the question was, do you believe that this should continue occurring without anything being done? This means that they agree with us with strengthening laws about the internet, and that if you were harassed or misinformed by someone, that they should receive a consequence, since someone will undoubtedly get hurt by these misleading information. Someone will end up being harassed, and as the examples given by me and my partner, people have died due to misleading information. Also, in our second contention, which was it would create an incentive to make sure that it doesn't happen, we need to protect the people. We as people have the right to be able to express our opinions, our beliefs without feeling threatened. And we should be able to go on social media and have the correct information. So people who have been misleaded, they shouldn't feel that shouldn't have happened in the first place. In which we should have more laws on the internet saying that in which prevent these sort of situations to happen and vote pro.
Yeah, a small debate tip to people. This is random, like I'm not commenting on the speech. When I time my speeches, I always use the stopwatch and I never use the timer, just so that it doesn't go in the middle. But it's fine. All right, Con, second speaker.
Yes, here I am. Just a second to set my timer.
Do you want prep?
Okay, so I'm basically going to start in 3, 2, 1, and I'll go. So regarding our statement for today, I'm going to focus on sustaining my teammates' arguments and also building a solid rebuttal part through my own set of ideas. So let's get started. We are going to talk about the responsibility that social media platforms and users have around certain topics. And I would like to state the fact that our society should be aware of the fact that incitements to violence, fake news, and hate speech are not as easy to define as we may think. To illustrate my affirmation, in 2020, a young Romanian man was penalized with a 4,500 lei fine for a post on Facebook. And the reason? As the contravention claims, he continued electoral propaganda through a message that invited people to vote in order to remove a certain political party from the governance. And the young man said he didn't even know that posting political related content can be considered a contravention. So should we consider this message an incitement to violence, fake news, or hate speech? The punishment that was applied in this case is absolutely exaggerated and restricts a fundamental right, the freedom of expression. This is what I'm going to talk about next. I'm going to quote a part of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, quote ended. So the freedom of speech is a compulsory element of evolution. As Leila said, she said that we need to have stronger laws and that this would create a safer environment online, as Daphne said. And she also stated that people have died due to misleading information. And this is what I'm going to talk about right now through the avocado argument. So hate speech is open to interpretation. It is a relative thing. For instance, if you're going to state on the internet that you hate avocado, or that you're going to say that people who wear socks and sandals should all die, this may sound misleading, as kind of a misleading information to some people, but it's just a joke, and everything can be open to interpretation. You do not have the right to decide what is suitable for legal punishment or not. Moreover, I will state the argument of dynamite. Think about this explosive and what are its potential uses. It is mostly used as a method of blasting rock, and its results had in the industry was really impressive. Of course, that it boosted the evolution of our society, while some terrorist attacks had the dynamite in their center. But is this a veridical reason to blame the inventor of a dynamite? Or if you electrocute yourself, should the electricity company be responsible for the tragedy? It is clear that you cannot really link the social platform and the fault of a user to the fault of a platform. Moreover, as my teammate stated in her speech, social media is constantly taking action in order to minimize the effects of actions like this. We have a study here. Between January 2019 and December 2020, Facebook removed over 10,000 accounts and over 12,000 pages. And in the same period of time, Twitter removed 294,000 accounts. Sounds pretty impressive, right? Basically, the people still have to assume responsible behavior for their actions, and they can face a number of consequences in this direction. But I need you to understand the difference between being responsible for your social media activity and being legally responsible for that. The community is anyway protected from negative content, and they can be even part of the positivity movement by reporting any kind of hate speech. You have those buttons that my colleague talked about in the crossfire. So violence, incitement, or fake news. What are we really solving with this legal contrivance? In what my colleagues from the opposite teams, on what the opposite team said, they said that this misleading information can take some, I don't know, can become really big in time, and they can go to really tragic actions. But I really think that it is not all about the problem of social media or of the users. It is also about the problem of the educations of the people who receive that information. I mean, if somebody tells you that you should kill yourself, is it something that you should really do? Thank you.
Oh, I'm muted. Whoops. Okay. Second crossfire now between Diana and Leila. Whenever you're ready.
May I take 30 seconds or 1 minute?
Sure, I'll run the clock.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, Leila gets the first question.
Okay, so Leila starts.
Sorry. Okay, so sorry. My first question is, you mentioned in your summary about, no, sorry, your rebuttal about if you're told to like kill yourself online, that why you should listen to it, you do realize that people's sensitivity to such a message and such a hateful thing differ, correct?
Of course, I really know that personalities are different and that we are all different humans. But I really think that this can also happen in real life when you're in a situation like this. It is your I don't know how to say it's your responsibility to take actions according to your education and to the knowledge that you have. You cannot really isolate yourself. You cannot live in a bubble and do not be affected by anything in life. I mean, we cannot stop social media from promoting different kinds of messages just because of this fact.
But we could prevent such messages to be sent, because of course you shouldn't someone shouldn't really be saying that to someone else in general, even though you're saying that someone should be taking responsibility in which they should make sure that they don't get affected by that. However, it's not right for them to have to protect themselves because they have to be wary online due to due to the laws not being strict enough, in which someone could write that and get away with it.
But we are already preventing all this. Sorry. If you want to finish your idea, please.
No, it's fine. You can.
Okay. I really think that here in this situation, it is all about the education that matters and all about the message, and you cannot isolate yourself. I think this is the main idea, and I think that we should move on, and I should also ask a question because our time is running late. And think about this. A man is condemned to capital punishment after incitement to violence on social media. And a few months later, authorities realized that a hacker, for instance, was responsible for the post. What do you think about the situation? Was the legal responsibility a good way to solve the problem?
Well, due to the hateful comments, yes, that was the correct way to handle that situation. However, in that situation, apparently there was a hacker in which the person in which their account had been hacked was not responsible for the hacker. However, those comments about initiating violence and all of that, that would have been the correct response if it had been that person instead of the hacker.
But that person's life was already taken. I mean, you cannot solve it again.
Well, yeah, you can't solve someone's death, especially when online. That's why laws are needed, so such things can be prevented, and people won't be saying such hateful things online, as well as if they were to write it and someone were to see it and people were to die, as you said, it's irreversible, then they would be punished for it because someone died. You can't replace that.
I think that we ran out of time.
Did we?
Yeah, that's time. Okay, let's hear the summaries.
Can I get 45 seconds prep time?
Sure. And just as a thing to add in general, one of the advantages of going second is that while, actually since I'm talking, I'm not going to take her prep time, but one of the advantages of going second is that while one team preps, while the first team preps, you are also allowed to prep. Okay, I'm going to continue running the time. That's a minute of prep. Do you want more?
I think your microphone is off.
Let me get that started all over again. All right. My time will start now. In my summary, I will start off by going over my own case and then refuting my opponent's case. Our framework for this round is to show you the negative effects of incitement to violence, fake news, and hate speech, and then show you why making social media corporations and users legally responsible would be beneficial. Our first contention is the stuff posted on social media has a influence on the people's lives. In this contention, I went over the stuff that could have been related to fake news, incitement to violence, and hate speech. All of them, in some way, could be connected to somebody dying. And as our opponent said in the second crossfire, a person's life was already taken, and that cannot be fixed, which completely proves our point. The fact that you cannot reverse a death. When somebody dies, that can't be taken back. And so, if anything, we should be trying to prevent that from happening again, rather than just letting this problem continue going on. Now, our second contention was that it would create an incentive to make sure that this doesn't happen again. At the moment, social media corporations are doing good at detecting and taking down anything that has to do with nudity, ISIS, recruiting pitches, and copyright violations because they have to. There's a legal implication if they don't. However, that's not happening when it comes to fake news, hate speech, and incitement to violence. That's because there is no current implications, legal implications, if that were to happen. Now, they also say that there's currently a button that would end up reporting and all that. But once a post is taken down, it could be too late. Somebody could have already seen it, and that could already the damage would have already been done. Somebody sees a post that says people who are from Africa suck, they should all kill themselves. They could have seen that. It could be taken down, but they already see that. Then in the rebuttal, they say hate speech is just certain parts of hate speech is just a joke, and that somebody said that people who wear socks and sandals should all die. Honestly, if it were all just a joke, we wouldn't be having this debate. There are people literally killing themselves for things put online, whether that's because of their race, their ethnicity, whether it's because of homophobia. It's not a joke. People take this really seriously, and it's not just like something that's going to happen once. It happens a lot. They compare social media to things that might be said on the street. However, on the street, you're not seeing millions of people hating on you. On social media, everybody in the world can see your life. Everybody in the world criticizes your life. Also, in general, violence cannot be accepted.
That's time.
Okay, well, for those reasons, I urge you a pro ballot.
Yeah, summary is 3 minutes. I should have clarified. So yeah, 3 minutes for summary, and now let's hear Khan. Khan has a lot of prep time, and I recommend that you use your prep time before summary, just in general.
Yes, I would like to take some prep time, maybe a minute.
Okay, I'll run the clock. That's 1 minute and 30 seconds of prep. Do you want more?
No, I would like to start. So, on balance, we consider that the best solution for improving the situation of incitements to violence, fake news, and hate speeches posted online is not by going in instance or making laws. If social media corporations and users would be legally responsible for what they post on social media, it will suffer short-term this kind of content, but on the long term, it will be a problem. So, if this law would be implemented, the effects of it would be more detrimental to the freedom of speech. But what would be the real impact? A lot of innocent people will face the law for things they did not intend to do. I mean, for example, 49% of the people did not know they were sharing fake news. Imagine all the people and the trials to prove their lack of bad behavior. People will fear to express themselves because someone might consider it a form of dangerous content. Let's read the lyrics of some popular songs that are talking about violence. They should be prohibited too. Or even you can go further and restrict the ad and that contains violence and pushes people into committing crimes. Or even forbid fictional books because they can express fake news. I mean, and even all of the examples presented by the pro team are exaggerated. They only talked about Trump's posts, and all I can say is that we should be more rational and we should view this from an objective point of view. There is an enormous amount of intriguing content posted on social media, and even more people that interact with them. So if the solution is making all of these instigators face the law because some people decided to transform word in action, I mean, it's not a good effect. You can expect a utopic world on social media when your society is full of hatred and violence. You can't expect to prevent someone dying only because you put a law on social media. You will encounter a lot of aggressive things. You will encounter bullying and racial hate speeches on not only in social media but in real life. And by accepting those rules, you accept the responsibility of your words. I repeat, social media platforms are only algorithms that reflect the human's nature. If you're searching violent content, you will get what you are. All of the hate speeches that go through those platforms will not change a real person mindset. I mean, you have a sense of mind. You should know what to trust and what not to trust. You said that if you were misinformed by someone, you should suffer. Why should suffer? Because you don't want to collect any data. I mean, there's a lot of articles, and if you choose to, okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, now we have the grand crossfire, which means all 4 debaters get to talk at the same time. So I ask that all 4 debaters unmute their mics. Daphne, good, cool. And you may begin.
Daphne, you can ask the first question if you would like.
Okay. My first question is, so you mentioned multiple times how you can encounter hate speech in real life, like on the street. Do you seriously think that we can compare maybe like 5 people off the corner of the street to millions of people who might see a post on social media?
Yes, I think that if you know how to judge things properly, the effects of those people telling you that you should kill yourself can be as damaging as the ones that you see on social media. if you don't want to encounter such things, you don't make a social media account. You don't go on these platforms. If you know that you're a sensitive person, then you stop using social media and respond to those people that you even don't know. Or maybe just make your account private and see all your friends there.
Could I ask a follow-up question to that?
Please.
Okay, so you mentioned that they just should not be on social media. However, with this pandemic and everything, it's not like someone can go outside and have their usual source of entertainment as going to the park, seeing their friends, in which many people many people have resulted to going to social media to get that source of entertainment, because no one wants to be bored during this pandemic, because that can also have side effects. So wouldn't you want people to be more safe on the internet, in which they don't have to be afraid to encounter these hateful things?
Yes, I totally agree that social media is a blessing in these times of coronavirus. But I don't think that we should be legally responsible for all of this. I mean, we're talking about some bullying that happens even in real life, and the detrimental effects that we presented you of what if happens if this motion is implemented. I mean, it's about law. It's about a lot of problems there. It's not only about forbidding someone to express themselves in full of hatred. I mean, it also, social media, if I said that bullying and harassment are being cut off social media even more.
Moreover, in addition to what my colleague said, I would like to point the fact that there are lots of ways that you can protect yourself on social media. Nobody is going to start some harassment action if you are keeping your account private and not going to comment on different parts. I mean, if you don't want to be disturbed by this kind of content, you are not watching that kind of content, and you can easily isolate yourself from that. If I can ask a question.
Guys,
sorry, but I think that we are running out of time, and I would really like to ask a question.
We're over time. Sorry. We're gonna, because that was 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Oh, I think the Wi-Fi is lagging. That's why you can't hear me.
Sorry, can you repeat, please? It got an interruption at me.
Yeah. You wanted to ask a question, but it was already 3 minutes and 20 seconds into the crossfire.
Okay.
And the crossfire is 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Doing my job, though, because we have to keep the time limits. So, Pro, whenever you're ready, final focus, 2 minutes for that.
Is it possible if I can get the rest of the prep time?
Yeah, let me actually check how much prep time you have. Okay, so you have 45 seconds of prep time, and Khan has 90 seconds of prep time. So I'll run it all. Okay, that's prep time. You may begin.
Judge, I will be refuting our opponent's points, meanwhile also strengthening our contentions. Judge, our framework for this round is that if we are able to show you that the negative impacts and effects of incitements of violence, fake news, hate speech, then show you why making social media corporations and users legally responsible for their actions would be beneficial, we win. Our opponents agreed with my partner during their first crossfire, in which they responded to yes about the question about how over 52% of people using social media have encountered some form of online hate speech about their race on social media. This means that they agree with us in which strengthening the law about the internet, and that if you were to harass or to misinform someone, you should receive a consequence, since someone is undoubtedly going to get hurt due to these actions. Our opponents even agreed and stated that on the internet you will encounter hate speeches, racism, and even death themes. However, this is not an excuse to allow such behaviors to continue online. They also mentioned how over 99% of hate speeches are taken down before anyone sees them. However, people have died whether to be from suicide or murder due to hate speeches. A riot was incited by former President Trump, or a rumor about how bleach apparently helps with the COVID. It's obvious that anything that's currently happening is not working, and we need legal implementations in order to help to solve and prevent these situations from happening, because as we, pro, and even con mentioned, that people's lives cannot be reversed, and which that if they die, it's a burden, not a burden, it's something that is very painful and cannot be reversed. Our opponents mentioned and agreed with us that when someone dies, they cannot be replaced or brought back, which strengthens our case in which voting for pro would allow less of these deaths to occur. They also mentioned how people should protect themselves from such things online. However, everyone has a different level of sensitivity to such hateful comments in which their life might already have been lost. Hurtful comments are never acceptable, and that's why I urge a pro ballot.
Guys, you need to time yourselves. You can't go 30 seconds over time and then ignore me when I tell you it's time. Come on, guys. It's like the first transatlantic debate ever. You guys have timers.
Excuse me, Teddy, and I'm sorry, in the UDL and ADL, they let them, and that might be my fault, they let them finish up their last thought past the timer.
Yes, I do too. I always give a 10-second grace period, but 30 seconds is a bit too much. That's why I waited until it was 2 minutes 15 before I interjected, because I agree, like they should be able to finish the last thought. Okay. And pro, you have 90 seconds of prep time. I assume you want to use that. I mean, con, you have 90 seconds of prep time. I assume you want to use that.
Okay.
So I'll run it, and then you'll give me a 2-minute speech, and then I'll have to make my decision.
Okay, I think I'm ready just to set my timer. Is it okay to start now?
Yeah, I mean, you have 10 seconds left to prep, but you can start, sure.
Okay, so I'm basically going to start in 3, 2, 1, I'll go. I would like to begin my speech by focusing on the problem that basically became the seed of our debate, which is fake news, incitements to violence, and fake news spread on social media. In the end, implementing legal responsibility is a way that we can act towards the phenomenon. But my team successfully proved that it is not a solution, but just a chaos creator. In this direction, we explained that hate speech is relative and open to interpretation, and it is difficult to tell if it was intentional or not, which makes implementing legal punishment risky. Moreover, we talked about the First Amendment, the argument of dynamite, and the avocado. We brought off statistics into our discussions, and the crossfires were great occasions to highlight our points. Think about the people who will fear to post content and express ideas because it might be considered dangerous content. Think about people who joke on some topics or people who don't know the content that they're spreading is fake news. The speech of the other team was pretty poor in studies and over-focusing on Trump's online activity, while our arguments could not be defeated properly. There are lots of questions left unsaid. What if somebody shares fake news without knowing that they are fake, with no bad intentions? Should we only let experts talk on social media? Doesn't the other team think that their philosophy is not respecting the First Amendment? Don't they think that people will keep expressing their opinions knowing that they may be penalized with fines they can't afford paying for? And so the social media problem should not be responsible for the user's activity as well. If a number of people are hit by a Toyota car in a terrorist attack, is the company that produced the car responsible for the tragedy? In the end, let me take you through an imagination journey. I would say that social media can be easily compared to a knife. A person can use it in order to chop vegetables or to kill another one. Of course, that in the last situation, the company that produced the knife is not responsible for the injury. And in the same way, social media should not be legally responsible for the posts available on it because its creators are also actively fighting in order to make this online space a better place. So, Judge, you should vote pro. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to have to make my decision. The first comment I'm going to say like one top level comment, then I'm going to need some stuff from you guys to make my decision. So the first observation that jumps out at me, or really two observations, is that one, you guys are using very sophisticated types of debate. What I really love is A, how researched your cases are, and B, how you both condense on these narratives, which you both teams continue to drive home and drive home and drive home. For pro, the narrative is people are dying. Hate speech and fake news are killers. Social media corporations can deal with them, but they choose not to because there's no incentive. And they repeat that and repeat that and repeat that. And Khan kind of addresses it. Khan's narrative is one about, Khan has several narratives, but its main narrative is one about A, the law is ineffective, and B, this idea of responsibility, like with the Toyota car. And every single speech, they mention it, and narratives are very important to debate, and I love that they're doing that. I've also noticed that both teams tend to float, they do what in debate jargon is called floating top-level responses, which really just means that they respond to the idea of the case as a whole. So the responsibility is a response to the idea of the pro case as a whole, or pro's idea about like, let me find it. Oh yeah, like pro's idea about having like the incentive or it's going to be too late. Even with the buttons are reporting like enforcement will be too late to come. That's a kind of top level response that addresses the whole case. What I thought was two things I thought could be improved. One, there aren't that many specific responses. And two, there isn't much weighing, which we just talked about. So now you've put me, I'm in a bit of a difficult situation because there are a bunch of impacts and numbers floating around. And all of these are very good, very well-formed arguments, but it's hard for me to choose between them because they never interacted with each other, right? Both teams said, our argument is important, but they never told me why it's more important. Which means that now I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. And I'm going to start by having to determine whether, like I'm going to start by having to call a few pieces of evidence, which is going to determine my decision in the round. And so again, I'm reiterating, this was a good debate. The fact that I'm calling evidence is not a bad thing. It means that there's room to improve, but it also means that the evidence is so solid and that the arguments are so solid that I need to see the source evidence. So you guys have prepped really well for this. Okay. So from pro, I'm going to need 52% of people. Okay, by the way, for sending evidence, the chat goes directly to me. So you can just send the URL and a little bit of text from that paragraph that I can Command F and search for. So from pro, I'd like the 52% exposed to on, actually I don't even need that. From pro, I just need the evidence that social media is effective against ISIS and porn, but not effective against hate speech. From con, I need the 47% share fake news without knowing. And Facebook is eliminating whatever it is, 26.9 million posts of hate speech or whatever, like just a card about how effective Facebook's elimination of hate speech is. I'm going to give you a few minutes to send over those links. And then once I send over those links, I'll look at the evidence and that'll help me inform my decision. And as a by the way thing, this isn't something rare. In US tournaments, judges call for evidence all the time. There was this one round. Yeah, there was this one round, and it was just a really interesting round. By the way, while I'm speaking, the team should be sending me the evidence. But anyway, so I was debating against a team from Taiwan, and it was 2 a.m. in Taiwan. And first of all, there was an earthquake in Taiwan. And so in the middle of the speech, the teams, they were just like, okay, it's an earthquake. And so they had to hide under the table. So obviously I gave them a bunch of extra time to do their prep because like they had an earthquake. I'm not going to be like, stop taking 10 minutes to do your prep. Like you're in the middle of an earthquake. At the end of the round, so we debaters were calling for each other's evidence. And then at the end of the round, the judge said, we want to see all the evidence you asked each other for. And I also want to see these other pieces of evidence. So we wound up sending the judge this massive doc with like 20 pieces of evidence. And the judge read 3 of them before making the decision. It was kind of funny. But at any rate, the point is evidence gets called all the time. I will read all the 3 pieces of evidence. Yeah, Alexandra, if you could send the URL.
I'm trying, but I had like 20 links and I'm just going through history.
Oh, okay. And yeah, Daphne, send me the URL as well. Okay, thank you, Daphne. Okay. And so from Khan, I just need the 26.9 million Facebook thing. Or whatever the number is. Maybe I misheard the number. Okay. This is a tough and kind of unsatisfying decision for you to make. I'm just going to go through what I thought were the issues in the round, some points on improvement, and then I'll say my decision. So we start with the opening cases, of which I think the opening cases for pro were better. They were just better structured and they had like actual concrete impacts. And even so, both sides have room to improve on the impact. So for example, pro gives me this pretty clear impact of like 20 people dead from Lysol. And then on the issue of hate speech, they talk about like sleeping issues and depression, but they never terminalize the impact. And the terminalized impact is like, well, why does anxiety matter? And it's like, it makes quality of life worse, and it could also lead to suicide. And that impact never gets terminalized. And I never hear some concrete idea. So I never hear a concrete idea of how many people are actually like committing suicide or being really negatively affected. Like the 52% evidence that I got was like, oh, by the way, you guys, your evidence was all good. So I'm impressed because a lot of debaters falsify their evidence. None of you guys did that. So like A+ for good evidence ethics. It sounds funny, but I'm serious. Like, good work, guys. Anyway, so the 52% is like, okay, so 52% like have seen like hate speech. But like, I've also seen hate speech and I haven't been like, okay, I see hate speech, now I'm going to kill myself. But there are a proportion of people, if they get continually bombarded with that hate speech, that might be getting these thoughts. I just don't know what that proportion is. I have no idea. I'm given no statistics, not even like a logical explanation throughout the round. On the other hand, on Khan's impacts come in rebuttal. Like Khan gives me their impacts in rebuttal. They don't give me impacts in the opening speech. They do the rebuttal in the opening speech and then the impacts in the rebuttal. Because in the opening speech, they give me like 26.9 million are being filtered out from hate speech, et cetera, which is all great. And then they come with this general idea of freedom of speech, but they don't tell me A, how much freedom of speech will be harmed, and B, how much that matters. I only hear that in summary when they talk about inadvertent fake news and misidentification, and they say 47% might be affected. Then we go to the rebuttal. So in the rebuttal, the good thing with the rebuttal is that you guys really went on your own cases and you really doubled down and you really pushed your own narratives. And that's really good. The bad part of rebuttal is that there wasn't a lot of interaction. So I wanted to hear more direct attacks on what they're saying. Pro kind of says, okay, lives are most important. They don't give me a reason why it's more important than, they don't give me a reason why their 20 lives are more important than like 100 million people who could be adversely affected. Other than saying that like lives can't be, like death can't be reversed. And they don't like really disprove what the opponents are saying. And it's a similar situation for Khan. What Khan does do that Pro doesn't is that they put a bunch of what in debate jargon is called turns. So what this really means is that they give a couple of reasons why even if the Pro case is true, there are bad impacts that stem from it. And so one of them is the 47% that don't know. Another one is misidentification. And another one of this, and then Pro also gives one really good turn, which is this idea that hate speech is actually silencing people. So if you care about freedom of speech, you care about mitigating hate speech. In the summary, this really good response that Pro makes never comes back again, never comes in the summary, never comes in the final focus. I don't know why Pro did not continue that response because Khan has no answer to it. But Pro does not continue that response. And since it doesn't show up in summary, doesn't show up in final focus, it will be a bit difficult for me to vote for it. Then that's Pro, I mean. Then Khan continues their turns about like 47%, misidentification. Ultimately, the round comes down to these for me at least, the two main issues, which is, I mean, there are three issues in this round. One, is there a hate speech problem? I believe pro. There's a hate speech problem. Two, will the law deal with this problem? And three, will the law have other adverse effects? So I think on the second issue, and the second issue for me seems a little bit shaky, because pro is telling me, and they link me to this opinion piece, which is like, oh, they're not doing a good enough job, and they're doing a better job with like ISIS and porn or whatever. Then con also links me to like this news article reporting on like a report that found that like 26.9 million pieces of evidence were of fake news were already being removed. The other thing, I thought that within that article, the better evidence is that only of 10,000, for every 10,000 pieces of content, 7 are fake news. I thought that was actually a better piece of evidence from the same article that Khan could have used. But just going off of what Khan says, I see that Facebook is already doing this big effort to remove fake news. Pro says that they do it better with ISIS, but I don't, because neither of the teams weigh their evidence or logic, they don't tell me which one to prefer, I feel like the issue is a bit of a wash. I lean slightly to the pro on this, but not by much. Because I don't know whether Facebook can actually do more if they're already removing X million of posts. And pro never tells me, I mean, I guess perhaps you could go after people who are making the fake news, but Khan's response that 47% don't know they're making fake news kind of defeats that point. Because if they don't know they're making fake news, then why would they, you know, like, they wouldn't be deterred from it because they don't know they're doing it. I think we come down to the third part where it's about like the negative effects of the law on like democracy and potential fines for people. And so pro has, I'm really left with, you know, pro's impact of 20 lives, but that's a shaky impact because I don't know how much more could have been done to say prevent the issue of Lysol. And the other thing is that the resolution is forward-looking. And you're not going to save the people who already died of Lysol by voting pro. I think the only thing I'm left with is this general idea of this low magnitude impact that Khan has. The magnitude is low, it's like a fine. But it's a very big scope and it's a very big probability. And so I think my decision falls to the Khan. I also think this was a very close round and that both pro and con definitely could have, like pro definitely had a lot of ways to win. Perhaps some of you might disagree with some of my logical assumptions or some of the feedback that I'm giving as a reason for my vote. And you know that your disagreements might be valid. And what I have to say is that's why weighing is so important. You need to tell me how to vote because otherwise I'll do the best I can with what I have. And I think I did the best I can with what the debaters gave me. Not my personal beliefs on the topic, but what the debaters gave me. Okay, I'm sure there's some questions on this feedback. The debaters, feel free to ask questions, and anyone else, you can also ask questions. Okay, so it looks like there are not any questions. So everyone's 100% clear. All right. Well, if that's the case, given that it's 8 minutes after 1:45/8:45, one moment, please. Whatever. Yeah. So I would just like, first of all, to thank everyone for coming here. I know this has been a pretty intense day because we're talking about weighing and all of these informations I'm throwing at you, and then we have this very complex and very good round that we're watching. So I know it's a lot, but you guys all did really well. And yeah, I'd like to extend an opportunity maybe to Professor Pop if he has any closing words he'd like to say.
Thank you, Teddy. It was a great match, great round. Both teams have done a wonderful job, and I think to organize the small tournament maybe, because everything goes so smoothly. So maybe it's a good idea to have more rounds like this between American and Romanian teams, more judges, more feedback. So we all can learn a lot of things linked to public forum. So I would like to thank everyone, judges, students, professor, and to you, Teddy, for the great job that you have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd also like to extend the opportunity, if she wants, to Miss Spector to give some words from the American side.
No, I really appreciate this. Thank you. I mean, they did the best they could. I'm proud of them. Your team in Romania, congratulations. You did a very good job. And I look forward to doing this again. Daphne, Layla, do you have something you want to say?
I would like to say thank you. This was a very good round, and the other team is very talented, and everyone did very well today. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Daphne?
I think that everybody did really good. And it was definitely a unique opportunity. Haven't even much things that are new recently. This is a good learning opportunity for me. And I think, regardless, it was a great round.
Thank you. You did a great job. Great job.
You all did a really great job. And now, Dr. Ganea, if you'd like to share some music.
So, Intech Academy, you rock. And I have this for you. Let's see if I could get it straight.
Remember to turn on audio when you share.
Okay.
Remember, you have to turn on audio. Can people hear?
Can you hear?
Not really.
No. No.
Nobody can hear. Okay. Okay, one moment. Okay, now you can share.
Thank you.
What a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, say, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you, I babies crying. I watched them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
You make the Bronxites everywhere proud. And now I have something for the other team. Give me a second.
Smaller.
Remember to share with audio. Good.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
When lights go out, you're in my mind. I close my eyes, so it's just you and I tell myself you'll be back again when the stars are aligned. We will dance in the meadow on our favorite place when spring is coming. Where are you now? I hope you're fine, but I won't lie, I still miss you so much. But I don't hold grudge. You had to go. I will save you a space for a dance in the meadow on our favorite place when spring is coming.
All right. The moral of the story is that it's going to be spring soon. And I also hope that once this COVID thing is over, we can get back in person in Romania and have all the fun there. So with that said, thank you so much for coming, and we will catch you on the next one. And
Bye-bye.
And please remember, guys, if you want to send me your email so I can send you a free copy of a guidebook for Romanian public forum debate and the copy of these notes. And I'll need your emails for that, and a copy of this recording. I'll need your emails in order for me to send that to you.
Your parents are on?
Yep, Dr. Ganea is here. Both Dr. Ganea.
I want to say thank you so much. I am blessed to have met your son, and for him to help my students is just a blessing to me. So you've done a fantastic job with Teddy.
Thank you very much, but it's ditto because he's so lucky to have you. He really loves you.
Oh, and I love him.
Spector, every other word is Mrs. Spector, Mrs. Spector, Mrs. Okay.
And if there's ever anything he needs, ever.
Same.
I mean, my kids know this as well. My phone is always open. I don't turn it
know. You guys had a brainstorming at 10:30 one night, right? Yes.
I'm very much into the kids. Or they're not kids, the young ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
but
yes.
It's a fantastic job with him. I make really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Teddy. I'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Miss Spector, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
You're like a son already.
Aw. And also thank you so much to everyone who's here, and also thank you so much to Professor Pope for helping us organize this whole thing.
Thank you very much, Toby.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Good night, Romania.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye, everyone.
Oh, hello, Dr. Mr. How are you?
Goodbye.